Hello, everybody. It's Mari-Lyn here of Hard at Work, and welcome to the podcast show about creating a positive and impactful legacy for your business. Whether you're a CEO or solo entrepreneur or a nonprofit, there's always something to learn more about how you can do something a little bit better. So today on my call, I have Rocky Romanella. Am I pronouncing that right? Okay.
Romanella.
Romanella.
Yes.
So I'm going to let him introduce himself, but I just wanted to welcome you onto the call. And so Rocky, tell me how you got started in doing what you're doing in your business and how how you found it's affecting others.
Well, thank you for asking. It's a pleasure to be on the show. My current business is 360 Management Services. We have three legs of our stool: keynote speaking, leadership training, and then we have a consulting side of our business, which we really focus in on leadership, process improvement, and how we tie that all together. A little bit unique in that we focus in on M&A, because for us, M&A is once you move past the typical M&A side of it, then you're really talking about the cultural integration and how do you make that M&A work. And so we enjoy that part of it, and so that we can bring in our leadership training and some of those parts of our business.
So,
Go ahead,
sorry for interrupting, but what's M&A?
Oh, mergers and acquisition.
Oh, okay. So go ahead. Sorry to interrupt.
That's okay. So that's where I find myself today. The journey, though, started over 40 years ago. I spent 36 years at UPS, where I got to a very senior level. I was very fortunate at UPS that I got the opportunity to perform many non-traditional UPS jobs.
Right.
Started unloading trailers part-time, working my way through college. I actually went to school to be a high school history teacher and a baseball coach. As I was working as a part-timer going to school, I realized that the best leaders were those leaders who could get their people to connect the dots.
Right.
Me, I never gave up my coaching, teaching passion. They just changed from the traditional classroom to the business classroom. And so to me, I was always able to get my teaching, coaching fix, but did it in a business setting. And graduated college, became a UPS driver, and then UPS did a promotion from within policy. And so advantage of that, moved 9 times across the country, and did some really wonderful jobs inside of UPS. We purchased mailboxes, et cetera, and rebranded to what's today the UPS store. I had that as a direct report. And as everyone's talking about supply chain today, we started a supply chain piece of business some years ago, and then purchased over 20 companies and built what's today UPS Supply Chain Solutions. And I ran this side of the world for UPS on the supply chain side. Retired, 55, 36 years, and then got recruited to be a CEO of a telecom company. We built cell towers, upgraded cell towers, did the 3G to 4G. Now, of course, we're going into 5G, had a sale there, and then that's how I started 360 Management Services.
Oh, okay. Okay. So it's just your retirement project.
Yeah, I guess that's the one thing I do feel I fail pretty consistently on is retirement. So it's retirement.
Yeah, I find most people who do retire eventually go back to work doing something because they're bored, or they just feel they're gaining so much weight, or lots of other things. So I'm glad that you were able to jump in from your background and actually start a business to help other businesses. So who are your clients anyway?
So we predominantly work with small businesses, although I've done keynote speaking with some of the largest organizations, training in some household name companies like Prudential, CBRE, companies like that. So we do consulting with some large companies, but we really focus in on small businesses on the consulting side. We feel like with our experience and our background, we could really help that small business owner. And frankly, that small business owner, it's hard for them to go hire McKinsey or PwC or someone like that. We feel like we bring the experience of a very large consulting company, but we're able to do it with small businesses. So we enjoy that part of it. So that's probably predominantly our clients. Of course, from the keynote side, it's any and all individuals who are looking for keynote speakers, and I certainly love doing that.
Right. Cool. So tell me some of the challenges that you're finding your businesses are having right now.
Well, I think that, obviously everyone's going through the difficulties right now with the virus,
Mm-hmm.
but I think that small businesses, in general, I think, struggle from this concept of, don't allow your strength to be your weakness. And I think, as you look at small business owners, and
Mm-hmm.
certainly the backbone of the U.S. economy and any country's economy, and I have
Right.
so great respect for entrepreneurs. I think what happens is their strength is that no one knows their business better than they do. No one's more invested in the business than they are. No one's more committed to their business than they are. What's
Right.
their weakness? No one's more invested in the business than they are. No one knows their business better than they are. So it's the ability to move from the day-to-day operational things
Right.
to think about the strategic vision of their business. What are we going to look like in the next 6 months, 18 months from now? How do we find the best? How do we find the most talented individuals to bring in our organization? I think those are some of the challenges at small business, because they always feel like they're competing against the Amazons, Googles of the world for top
Mm-hmm.
talent, but they need top talent too. And in fact,
Yeah.
I'd argue that a small business owner needs top talent more than a large corporation, because if you have 20 employees and 5 of them are struggling, that's a large percentage of your workforce that's not, executing to the degree you need them to. So
Right.
I think small businesses really need to be able to attract some of the top talent out there.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And so how do you think that they do well with that or they don't?
Well, I think they can do well with it. I think sometimes, they spend a lot of time as small business owners apologizing for being a small business owner.
Mm-hmm.
Someone will sit across from them and they'll say, "Well, look, we can offer this, this, and this, but we're just a small business."
Yeah.
Well, well, that's the best part of who you are. Business owner, right? I mean, Jeff Bezos isn't walking around every warehouse talking to people. You could never be undercover boss as a small business owner, but that's your strength.
Right.
People love the fact that they work for the founder or they work for the owner of the company. And so I think that that's something that you should never apologize for as a small business owner. That's your strength, is that it's your business, you're committed, and you care about the individuals inside your organization, and people can come and talk to you. And I think that's so important. So I think that sometimes small business owners, believe it's a detriment. I think it's an absolute asset and strength that you're a small business owner. And
Mm-hmm.
I think people would rather work in that family atmosphere than in a large corporation. So you should, see that as an attribute that you have when you're competing against a large company for the top talent.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So tell me a little bit about how you get started with a client. Like, what's the first thing you talk to them about or start working with them on?
Well, my approach is generally that two things will happen. People either tell you about their business or
Right.
they'll show you their business.
Mm-hmm.
If they're willing to tell you about their business, then I love to ask questions and have them talk about their business. If
Mm-hmm.
some people are not as comfortable talking about their business
Right.
as others are, so if someone isn't as comfortable talking about their business, then I'll say, hey, show me what you do here. I'm always
Right.
interested how things work. And so as they're taking me around their business and showing me a tour of their business, then for me, that's my opportunity to get some sense of what they do and how they do it. What are the important things? And so that begins the process for me. The second part of the process is I always like to get down on the floor and understand what's going on. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
one of the things that I learned early in my career is, I became a UPS driver before I became a UPS supervisor.
Right.
And that lesson was valuable to me. So when, for example, I was given the responsibility for mailboxes, et cetera, the first thing I did was go and work a day in the store, put an apron on and go work a day in the store. When I received the responsibility for supply chain, first thing I did was go pick an order,
Right.
understand. So I think that for me, that process has never changed in my mind. And so
Mm-hmm.
as we engage with a client, we'll meet with them, we'll have them tell us about their business or show us their business, and then we'll go spend a little time in their operations to understand what they do and how they do it.
Right. Right. Yeah, I find that that's one thing I was just thinking about myself is like, what's my process in this podcast? What do I do? And you should be writing it down because then that understands the process a process that I do, right? And I think that's the challenge that most small businesses or even small businesses don't do, is they don't write it down so that, you know, somebody could take over that part of their business, right?
Well, I think that's absolutely true. I mean, I think process, is what's so important. Process is what ties everything together. Process is what gets you that consistency. I have this, concept that I work under called balanced leadership. You know,
Mm-hmm.
I speak a lot about that, and it's sort of my process is this balanced leadership. You want to think like a customer. You want your people to feel like valued individuals, but you
Right.
want to act like an owner in every decision you make. And so for me, process ties it all together. So if someone were to bring me, if I'm running my own business and someone
Mm-hmm.
brings me a product, I listen intently, and I make sure that all three constituents are represented. So you may bring me this product, a new product, and you may have it completely. You can articulate where it fits in a portfolio, why it's necessary in the marketplace, where the need is, and then you could sit there and give me the price point, and of course someone in the CFO, he or she's sitting there banging on a calculator saying, okay, at this price point we can make money. Well, at that point my next question would be, well, how about our people? Our customers are represented, shareowner stakeholders were represented, but how about our people? Do they know why it's an important product? Do they know what role they play? How do we handle a service disconnect? So that's my process. So this balanced leadership process I use is what keeps me consistent in this decision-making process. And so I agree with you. As a leader, it's important for you to have your process.
Right. 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 I may be leading myself right now, but I still need my process.
Yeah, that's right. I talk a lot about that in my book, Tighten the Lug Nuts. It's about that process. It's about the process that you have.
Right, right. Great, awesome. So can you just share with me a couple of success stories or a success story of working with a client and how it worked out really well for you or them?
Well, I think I think that there's quite a few of them, but for
Right,
me, I certainly enjoy understanding. I go through this process, and I start with the first question I ask, interestingly enough, is who's your customer?
right.
And so as I take them through that process, so for example, in one of the, in a healthcare example, we're talking about who's your customer. And of course, a third of the people in the room, senior executives, would tell you, oh, our customer is the distribution channels, whether it's, CVS or Walgreens, or
Mm-hmm.
that's our customer. And of course,
Right.
another people would say to you, no, 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 really the docs, they prescribe our medication. Then a third looked at the other two-thirds and said, well, isn't it the patient? So the process is you really need to identify who is your customer. And I think every business needs to do that. So that's our first step in my process working with a particular customer is who is your customer? And
Mm-hmm.
interesting to find how people will move. Each individual inside your organization may think differently about that. And then
Mm-hmm.
once you get past that first major step, then you start to build other things. Okay, well, what are the key metrics that you're going to hold yourself accountable to? So for example, if the customer you've identified is that distribution channel or is the doctor, well then being 99% on time may not be that big, may be a great KPI. But if
Mm-hmm.
but if it's a patient, then 100% is the only thing that you're gonna, that's the only thing you can have as your KPI, because you don't want that one patient to not get their medication. So
Mm-hmm.
that's the process. And so we've had customers that we've worked with where we've been able to identify that customer as the first step. And then
Mm-hmm.
start to identify that first customer. As you start to identify who that customer is, now you start to begin to build those key metrics, the processes, the things that you won't, what are the things that you won't compromise? What are the things, what are your boundaries? A lot of times you'll find when you're working with a customer or you're working in a new surroundings with a
Mm-hmm.
new product, the customer will start to get pushed and pulled in different directions. Hey, you do this, you think you can do this, you think you can do this. What starts at you're in one point, and a lot of small business owners, that'll happen. You'll provide this service, and then the customer will say, "Hey, that's really good. Could you add this? Can you add this? Can you add this?" And it all sounds really good until all of a sudden, we're working with a customer that they sell cleaning products, for example.
Mm-hmm.
We're going through that process with them as they're starting to expand their business, and we're trying to help them understand what's their strategic view, what do they want to do next. And what they're finding is that they sell these products, and now customers are saying, well, can't you just clean the place for me? Maybe you should have a cleaning side of it as well. Like,
Mm-hmm.
what? Bad idea. We've got the products. And so as we're going through this process with them, and we're going through this process steps that I take them to, okay, who's your customer? Then I said to them, well, what's your strategic boundaries? What are some of the things you won't do?
Mm-hmm.
What does that mean? Well, will you clean the buildings? Well, we think we should. Okay, well then, how are you going to dispose of the products? Oh, that's another problem. Yeah, well, it's so you start to establish that it sounds good, and you start to get pushed and pulled by customers.
Mm-hmm.
What you end up finding out is, wait a second, I don't even recognize myself 3 years later because of how I've been. And they were all good decisions at that moment. So part of what we try to do is, as we work with customers, and I think about those customers that were some of the most successful outcomes for them, were the customers where we really identified what their strengths are, what they do really well. If they're going to expand their portfolio, they do it in a way that gives them the best opportunity for success.
Right. Yeah. That's it's a very long process sometimes to actually get people to know where they are and who they are. So I commend you for doing all that stuff.
Well, I'll tell you what, it'll be interesting as we come out of this difficult period,
Right.
post-virus. 3 things are going to happen. A percentage of the companies are going to get stronger because they really understand their business. They did all the things they needed to do,
Mm-hmm.
and they'll come out stronger going forward.
Right.
That maybe, just for the sake of numbers, that may be 20% of the business. 60% are going to come out, but they're going to be struggling. They
Mm-hmm.
may be smaller than they were before. Their balance sheets may not be as good, but there'll be a percentage of businesses that won't make it and won't be.
Right.
And so from that perspective, you'll have those three types of situations. And then you'll have post-virus or post, scenario where, it'll be a different world. I mean, there'll be new businesses that'll spring up. There'll be new opportunities that'll come up. Think about the whole situation that came up after Enron, right? You had a whole Sarbanes-Oxley. Well, out of that, look at all the industries that came from that. You have company like Protiviti was born to understand the whole Sarbanes-Oxley, understand that whole piece of it. Well, the same will happen post-virus. You'll have new businesses. I think today most businesses thought they had a business continuity plan. They really didn't have a business continuity plan the way they thought they had a business continuity plan.
Right. Yeah, it's the idea of, I'm going to start this business, and you don't really fully develop it. You just jump right in, right? And then you don't take the time to think about what the long-term vision is.
Well, there were things that I'm sure that most educational institutions thought, okay, we'll just go online.
Yeah.
Then you find out that there's a certain percentage of the population that does not even have DSL or does not even have online capabilities. And so that whole piece is going. So out of this, there'll be these types of learnings.
Right.
There'll be new businesses or new opportunities that will come from this sad situation. And then, businesses will either adapt or start from, understanding what the new realities are.
Right. Yeah, I think I see that quite a bit. Yeah, great. Thank you, Rocky. So tell me a little bit about how you create an impactful legacy in your business.
Well, I think, to me, legacy is probably one of those key things that I think, talks a lot about who you are as a leader or organization. And I think for me, legacy is around this concept of, do you leave things a little better than you found them? Are people better because of their time with you? Are your customers better because of their interaction with you? And so for me, that's what defines legacy. Do you leave things a little better than you found? So after our engagement, is the company better because of their time with us? Are the people in that organization, do they understand things better? Do they understand what role they play? is the solution that we provided for that organization, is it going to give them long-lasting success? And I think the same is true with individuals and people. And I talk about
Mm-hmm.
legacy a lot, especially as individuals. I think as, you know, I always, when I get the opportunity to speak to seniors in college or juniors in college or seniors and juniors in high school, I always talk about this concept of legacy, and I challenge them with this thought. And
Right.
I say to them, think of the word that you want someone to use to describe you at the end of your career.
Right.
What's that word? And it's interesting. People will throw out words like, you know, energetic, aggressive, you know, those kinds of things. And it's all words they think they want, you know, we want to hear. But I
Mm-hmm.
always think, what's the word you want? What's that word you want on your tombstone when someone defines you? And for me, the word is thoughtful. I'll
Mm-hmm.
ask, what's the word you want someone to use to describe you at the end of your career?
Who, me?
Yeah.
Well, to be thoughtful and kind, because that's my movement is about world kindness.
So kind.
So
I think that's a great word. So that's the
yeah.
word you want people to use to describe you at the
Mm-hmm.
end of your career. And if you think about that as you're starting your career or at some point during your career, that
Mm-hmm.
that's the word, then you end up, what happens is you start building that mosaic to that
Mm-hmm.
word throughout your career.
Right.
And it's
Yeah, if
almost
you,
like a brand.
yeah. You can see the background. It says kindness is really powerful. So I really believe kindness is powerful.
So that's your word. And
Yeah.
so when people describe you and
You're right.
describe your legacy, it
Mm-hmm.
becomes this concept of kindness.
Mm-hmm.
And it's the same with your business. What's the word you want someone to use to describe your business? Is it, you know, and for you, your business, you know, you would be kind to your employees. You would think
Mm-hmm.
about how your business impacts, you know, the environment. You would think,
Yeah.
because a kind person thinks through the consequences of their decision. That's how I
Right.
feel we're thoughtful, that I think through the consequences. I think about how the decisions I make impact our customers, our people, our shareholders, and our
Mm-hmm.
stakeholders. So that's the
Yeah.
word. For me, that's your legacy. Your legacy, and that word kind of describes your brand and your legacy.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it does. I think it does. I mean, I just had somebody post something, a friend of mine, a really long time ago. You're so thoughtful, Mari-Lyn. I'm like, oh, okay, thank you. You know, so I know it works. So like you were saying, it's just like, it's a great question to ask somebody and build your business around that rather than this idea, I got to have this business, right?
No, I think the other thing so for me, the other thing that's important, there's three
Mm-hmm.
questions I think every person and business owner needs to ask, you know, themselves in the confines and the quiets of their own heart and conscience.
Mm-hmm.
So the three questions are, who am I?
Yeah.
What do I stand for? The
Mm-hmm.
first two are questions that most people can articulate and answer, and certainly companies can articulate and answer. I mean, if you and I were walking around a cafeteria in any corporation or any company, there'd be banners, there'd be posters about you know, their values, their ethics, you know, all the things about their company. But number three is the most critical question: what won't you compromise? And if you
Mm-hmm.
think about large corporations that have a household name brand who have gotten themselves in trouble, they clearly could articulate who they are,
Right.
what they stand for. The question is, what won't we compromise? And clearly,
Right.
somebody compromised those values, those ethics, right? Their mission statement, their value statements, because they're hanging all over.
Right.
That's the key. So as you're thinking about your small business, and really the small business is a reflection of you as
Right.
the owner, because you set the tone from the top.
Mm-hmm.
What are those three? How do you answer those three questions? Who are we? What
Yeah.
do we stand for? But what are the things I won't compromise? You know, and you should know them, and you should be able to talk to your people about them, and
Right.
people should know that about it. Could be integrity, safety. You know, these
Mm-hmm.
are core values of who we are, and these are things that we'll walk away from business before we'll, you know,
Right.
violate our integrity, or we'll walk away from business before we do it in an unsafe manner, or there's a safety violation that could happen. We'll never put our
Right.
people in harm's way. So I
Right.
think that's what's, you know, that's also how you start to create that legacy of you as a person and as
Mm-hmm.
a
Yeah, I agree. And not only just in business, but even if you're job hunting or whatever, you have to know who you are. You have to know what you stand for, and you have to know your own integrity. So it works, all the way around, full cycle,
Oh, I agree.
circle.
It's interesting. People, when they find out that I worked for UPS for 36 years, and in this day and age, there's not that longevity,
Yeah,
per se. But I tell people all the time, I didn't agree with everything that happened at UPS.
right.
I didn't disagree enough to leave.
Yeah.
If you think about it, it's because my values, my ethics that I was brought up from my parents and
Hmm.
how I grew up as an individual, right? They were never in conflict at UPS. I may
Right.
not agreed with everything that was going on, but they never asked me to break a law, violate a policy, do something
Yeah.
on it. And so, and I think as I tell young people all the time as they're getting into the job market or they're
Hmm.
thinking a company to work for, part of what you're trying to understand is, do I fit in here morally and ethically? I may not agree with all the decisions. I may have a bad day. I may even work for not the greatest boss in the world.
Right.
But do my values and ethics match? Is this a place where, for example, that I bring hard work every day? Do they value hard work?
Yeah.
Do I feel valued? Do I feel valued here? Do people recognize, I may
Hmm.
not be the absolute, best performer, but I'm giving it everything I can, and they understand it and they respect it. So you have to match up as well, and I think that's one of the reasons why people stay at companies long as they do, or I
Right.
stay, because
Right.
I felt like I belonged. Now, it doesn't
Right.
mean I'm happiest every day. It
Right.
just means I belonged. And so
Right.
my bigger fear was, if I left, am I going to find that place that my values and ethics and who I was as an individual and how I was brought up, is that going to be recognized? Because if I leave and I don't find that place, I'll be leaving there shortly thereafter. And now I'm on that treadmill leaving all the time.
Right. 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 Yeah. And that's why we have to take a look at, is your past present, and take a look at those issues, right, on a personal level. So anyway, thank you for being on the call today, Rocky. I've enjoyed the conversation with you. So do you have any final things you'd like to say before we close up the call?
Well, thank you for asking. Yes, I mean, if people are interested in getting in touch with me, my website is www. It's the number 3 and the word 60 SIXTY managementservices.com. My book is Tighten the Lug Nuts: The Principles of Balanced
Oh,
Leadership.
we need to talk about that.
Yes, thank you. That's okay. I enjoyed the conversation. Book is a 5-star Amazon bestseller right now. And the other thing is for every book sold, we donated $1 to the Jimmy Valvano Fund to find the cure. Uh,
Okay.
some years ago, I got the opportunity to meet legendary coach John Wooden, who's since passed, and I got the opportunity to speak with Coach Wooden. And one of the things that impressed me so much, besides he's
Hmm.
such a genuine person and such a wonderful individual to speak to. When when we asked him, did he want a fee or anything like that? Because he was also going to be a speaker at one of our conventions at UPS, and he said, no, for me, nothing. But if you wanted to donate some money to the Jimmy Valvano Fund, I would certainly appreciate that. So I was so touched by his thoughtfulness and his
Hmm.
is saying, it's not about me. I'd love for you to donate to the Jimmy V Foundation. From my perspective, that's one of the things that I always thought about, and
All
I
right.
loved reading Coach Wooden's books and the opportunity to meet Coach Wooden. So we donated $1 to the Jimmy V Foundation in honor of Jimmy V, to find the cure, and as my thank you to Coach Wooden. There's also the interview I had with Coach Wooden on our website.
Hmm.
That I have over 40 YouTube videos of
Yeah.
different topics, and I probably have 80 interviews loaded up on my podcast page under different topics. So
Yeah.
there's different topics. So if anyone's interested, feel free. But
Yeah. Yeah. I'd
so
probably have to do that too. Different
yeah, visit our
topics.
website. Visit my website. Our conversation will be loaded up on mine as well as yours.
Yeah.
So it'll be a fun way for people to interact with myself. And if any of your guests have any questions, certainly my email is Rocky, ROCKY, Romanella, ROMANELLA @gmail.com. The
Okay.
book the book is fulfilled through Amazon. I'm self-published, so it's Amazon as well as barnesandnoble.com.
Yeah. So when I post this video, it'll be all posted on podcasts .heartatworkonline.org, and all your information will be there. So if anybody does, wants more information, they can just get it from there as well. And so thank you so much, Rocky, for joining me today. And I am sure many people will get a lot of juice out of what you said today. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.